Hi, hello. Today we're going to talk about how to use event options on Juniper router to iterate a command that could be done to perform a snapshot of the hard disk. So usually in Juniper routing engines, the most recent routing engines are all based on VM host architecture. So they have a primary hard disk and a backup hard disk. Sometimes you may want to ensure that the contents of the primary hard disk are always synchronized to the backup hard disk. Of course, you don't want to run this on regular basis. You may want to run it once every fortnight or once every 5 to 6 weeks. This is just to ensure that the image and all the other configurations are always backed up to the backup hard disk and they are available should there be a problem with your primary hard disk. If the primary hard disk gets corrupted, the backup hard disk has all the information that is required. This is very useful when you have a single RE system, because if you have a dual RE system, when such a hard disk failure happens on the master routing engine, the backup routing engine usually takes over the mastership and you still have the configurations all up to date. However, if you have a scenario where you have a single RE on a routing engine, and imagine if these snapshots are not taken at frequent intervals, there may be a situation where you have an outdated image or a configuration on the backup hard disk, and should the primary hard disk fail, you may end up with some outdated configurations. So this is quite possibly can happen in some of the platforms, so you need to be aware of it. So how do we take care of this? So one option is by using event options, as I am showing on the screen, where first you create something called as a generate event. What generate event does is you define a time interval at each interval when the command gets executed. So here I call my generate event a name. In this case, I just call it TT, and I define a time interval in seconds. Now in this case, I'm defining it for 100 seconds, once every 100 seconds. Of course, this is quite aggressive times to keep on doing snapshot to the hard disk. You may increase this to higher seconds or days, and you have options that will give you what is the maximum interval you can set. I will show you that as well. And once you define the generate event, you go and create a policy within the same event options hierarchy. You create a policy name. Again, you can call it a name like test. You reference the event because this policy will be executed once every 100 seconds. In this case, because that's the event that is called in. Event TT is got the time interval. So once every 100 seconds, execute command action will take place, and the command that is going to be executed in this case is request VM host snapshot. Now you may notice an interesting line below that where you also have something called as yes. The reason is some of these commands like request system reboot or request VM host snapshot, they require an interactive yes or no action from the user when such commands are executed. So you have to define this yes as an additional line, otherwise this command will not get executed. So that is the logic behind adding this yes under execute commands. Now, as this configuration is being committed, or before this configuration is committed, I am checking the VM host version command that's going to tell me what is the version that is on the primary hard disk. You can see the current boot disk is primary, and it's telling me that the versions on the partitions within the primary hard disk is this version S2.1 and R2.13. Now when I run the next command, show VM host snapshot, you can notice this command is slightly different from show VM host version, because show VM host version is showing you the primary disk content. Show VM host snapshot is showing me the secondary disk content. And you can see that the secondary disk straight away has got different versions of Junos. It does not have the same versions as it is on the master. So this is one classical reason why you need to have snapshot taking place, because should the primary hard disk fail and if the backup hard disk is the only disk available, the system may boot up and come up with an outdated version. That is not something you want to happen. So this is just showing you the differences between the disk before the command gets executed. I am running the show event options in display set format as well, just to show you exactly what is here. As you can see, the syntax is set event option, generate event, you give a time interval, you define a policy, you call that time interval, and then you execute the commands. One other key point is when you run this command, then execute commands, your command has to be given within double quotes. So that is very important. It is not going to autofill your command, so you will have to explicitly copy it within the quotes. After this configuration is committed, I am also starting monitor start messages looking for when the snapshot keyword is going to be executed. And as you can see here, when the 100-second interval has passed, the Juno script has executed that command. It's clearly telling me that Juno script is executing this command. And under interactive log commands also, I can see that this command is being executed by the Juno script, the event option script. Post this command is executed, I am checking the show VM host snapshot, which now shows me that the secondary disk is got the same versions as the master. So to confirm, if I run show VM host version, you can see that the master images are S2.1 and R2.13, which is what the backup also has. So this is quite useful to have this enabled if you want to ensure that your hard disks are always in sync. But a word of caution I would say is do not run these commands with short intervals, because a snapshot is pretty much writing a lot of data into the hard disk. You ideally want it to have a slightly higher interval. So as I was mentioning, when you create your generate events, what is the maximum time interval you can set your commands to work? So you can see this is the maximum seconds you can set. Obviously this will be a few days. When you divide it by 3600, you will get how many days maximum you can go, and you can run these commands accordingly. Hope you find this useful. Bye for now.